So in today's video we're going to talk about how to make our chord progressions more interesting. So there are several ways to make our chord progressions more interesting. One way is definitely going over inversions. So let's assume that I want to go from C major to F major. I can go over an inversion of the C in first inversion, for example here, so C over E to get to F, like this. And it makes it more interesting rather than just playing C and then going to F. Okay. Another way is going over chord substitution. So let's assume again that I want to start from C and I want to go to A-7. I can do that through, for example, the secondary dominant of A minor, which is going to be E7, and I can do stuff like okay, this E7 doesn't even belong to the key of C major, but it's just a secondary dominant to go to A-7, and it's another thing that you can use to spice up your chord progressions. So I did talk about some of these topics in previous videos, and I will leave a few links in the description below. I also have a weekly live streaming series which is called Music Theory for Guitarists. So if you guys are interested, make sure to check that out, because that's where I talk about music theory applied to the fretboard of the guitar. So very often we go over these topics during the live streamings. But the number one thing that I would like to introduce in this video is something called modal interchange. Okay, I find the modal interchange the best way to spice up your chord progressions and make them more interesting. Now let's first define what a modal interchange is. It's every time you borrow a chord that doesn't belong to the key from a parallel scale. Let's go over a few examples, because I would really like to talk about the theory and then show you examples from real songs. So let's take the 7 chords that you get when you harmonize the C major scale. You go over C major first degree, then D minor second degree, E minor third, F major fourth, G major fifth, A minor sixth, and then you also have a bit diminished on the 7th degree. If you extend this to the 7th chords, instead of the triads, you go over C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, and the B becomes minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished. So let's take a couple of chords out of these 7 that we went through, like for example the 1st and the 4th degree, like C major, and then going to F major, right? Now both chords belong to the harmonization of the C major scale. They are part of the 7 chords that we went through now. But what if we find a song, for example, that goes like this? Now this thing sounds lovely, but you can immediately notice that I played an F minor instead of an F major, and the F minor definitely doesn't belong to the key of C major. Nevertheless, this sounded really good. So let's try to understand what was the concept behind this and why this is so popular. So we said earlier that the modal interchange is when you borrow a chord from a parallel key. So what is a parallel key? It's any other key or scale which starts from the same root. So if we say that C major is our starting key, starting scale, any other C scale would be a parallel scale. So the most common is obviously the C minor scale, C natural minor scale, C Aeolian. So if we harmonize this, we're going to get another 7 chords. Now these 7 chords are the C minor or C minor 7 if you extend it to the 7th on the 1st degree. Then you're going to find the D diminished triad on the 2nd, or D minor 7 flat 5 if you extend it to the 7th. Then E flat major 7, or E flat major if you just consider the triad, then F minor or F minor 7, G minor or G minor 7, then A flat major or A flat major 7, and then B flat major or B flat 7 dominant if you extend it to the 7th. These are the 7 chords that you find in the harmonized C minor scale. Now the practice of the modal interchange is that you can use any chord that comes from this scale to spice up your progression, which was actually in the key of C major. So that F minor that I played and that sounded lovely, bringing us back to C major, is actually a chord that comes from the C minor scale, which is the minor parallel key or minor parallel scale. Okay, so the example that I was playing was C major, first degree in the key of C major, then F minor, 4th degree minor, which comes from C minor, and then back to C major. Okay, now this thing is very common. It's called plagal minor cadence, and it's a chord progression that you literally find anywhere from the Beatles to Adele, Bruno Mars, anywhere really. Now I chose this 4 minor because it's very common, but I could have used any other degree really of the C minor scale harmonized in order to borrow a chord and use it in the key of C major. To be fair, you could actually use any C parallel scale, so you could use any chord coming from the C Dorian or C Phrygian or C Lydian, and the options are really so many. Now, as I promised, I want to show you a couple of songs where there is modal interchange, and I'm sure that you know these songs, but more likely you never thought about them as modal interchange. So if you follow this channel, you know that I love to play a lot of funk music. So the first example would be a rhythm played by Nile Rodgers. It's actually a song by Sister Sledge, but Nile Rodgers was the producer, and it's We Are Family, which goes pretty much like... Now the song is in the key of A, and the 4 chords that I played were A, G, D, and then G11 or F over G, basically a G7th extended to the 9th, and also sus4, okay, basically a G7. Now, because we are in the key of A and D are chords that perfectly belong to the key of A. They are the 1st and the 4th degree. But when I play the G, both when I play, as a triad or as a 7th chord, that chord obviously doesn't belong to the key of A. So the place where that comes from is the parallel minor key. So in the key of A minor, you will find on the 7th degree a G major, or if you extend it to the 7th, a G7th chord. So basically, it's like saying that we are in the key of A, but we borrow a chord from A minor when we go here and here, okay? So going over it, again, this would be A, 1st degree, then G, borrow chord, which is the flat 7th major chord, or dominant 7 later on, then 4th major, and then again the flat 7 major chord or extended to the 7th as a dominant 7th. Okay, I wanted to show you this first of all because the song is lovely, but also because using this chord, the -7th degree of a minor scale, when you actually are in a major key, it's something very common that you will find pretty often if you start paying attention to chord substitutions and modal interchange. Now, the second example is the song Creep by Radiohead, which goes pretty much like G major, B major, C major, and then it ends on C minor. So we go from C major to C minor. Now, when you keep the same root, guys, and you go from a major chord to a minor chord, there is definitely something going on. It could be a modulation, a change of key, or in this case, it could be a modal interchange. And that modal interchange, it's the minor plagal cadence that we talked about before. Because this song, Creep, is in the key of G major. And when you reach the chord C, you're going to the 4th degree, okay, with a passing chord, which is B, but you're going to the 4th degree, which is C major. And then what you do next, you play the 4 minor. So you go from the 1 to the 4 major, and then the 4 minor before going back to the 1, okay? So again, in the key of G major, the chord C represents the 4th degree and it's the right chord to play, but the C minor doesn't belong to the key of G, so all you're doing is borrowing this C minor from the key of G minor, which on the 4th degree would have a C minor, okay? And when you listen to the song, you definitely get that mood that changes into something a little bit darker and more sad, okay? And from here we go to change of mood, and back here. So I guess that these two songs are super popular and you knew both of them. And these are good examples of where you can find modal interchange in popular songs that everybody knows. Now guys, the list is quite long, so if you're interested in seeing more examples of modal interchange, please let me know in the comments and we can do another video where we talk about more examples of modal interchange in pop music or in general in very popular songs. Right, I hope that this music theory lesson on modal interchange with examples from actual songs helps you. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comment box below. If you haven't done it yet, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. And feel free to follow me on Instagram as well. Also, every week I'm live here on YouTube with a music theory lesson for guitarists. And the name of the series is actually Music Theory for Guitarists. I've done now about 12 or 13 episodes. So if you guys are interested, you've got plenty of lessons to watch. And make sure to tune in every week for the new episodes. And while I'm live, you can ask more questions. Right, so once more I want to thank you for your support and for watching this video. I look forward to hearing from you. This was The Bearded Guitarist. I'll be seeing you in the next video.